By the end of November, we'll say goodbye to Johan, and I'll be the Siwiya CEO. So my background has been in community-owned energy projects. A lot of work that's been done to ensure that communities can achieve water, energy, and food security while they do the one, they do the other. And most recently at the Energy Research Center, working on policy, electricity policy, particularly renewables and nuclear. And my field is managing transitions from a coal-based, coal-dominant power system to one where there's entry into the market by all sorts of other options that we know are available. Okay, so my dissertation is what I'll be talking about today, which was on, that's the title, The Politics of Electricity Planning. I specifically didn't call it the political economy of electricity planning because I'm not an economist, but I am very aware of issues of political economy that kick in, especially as they relate to renewables and nuclear. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So, my research questions, I focused on dominant advocacy coalitions. I really wanted to identify how people were organizing themselves and how they were then advocating. And I then tracked what kind of effects that had in the policy that was realized. So, and then what could be learned from that for policy lobbying and advocacy. I did a literature review, standard stuff, lots of interviews with ESCOM planners and people in the Department of Energy, IPP office and so on. I selected 23 out of the lot of, I had a good number of interviews to select from, but I wanted some consistency. And I then did the systematic analysis of evidence in the policy. Okay, so this is where we start from. And this is actually not the biggest map that I've got. This is a map that just tracks the, I'm not going to use the pointer, on the right hand side of this map, you'll find issues that relate mainly to the one coalition, which I have called the Orthodox Coalition, and on the left hand side, the Reform Coalition, which is the one that is interested in power sector reform. And it was a bit of a light-hearted take on my part because I'm very interested in the stuff of religion and how people said believe that centralized base load is the thing, the answer, mainly through centralized coal and nuclear. The Reform Coalition, the opposite of that to a large extent. And of course, please bear in mind that none of these things are defined in black and white terms, lots of overlap and grey. Within my research, I found that the following government actors were supporting the different coalitions. On the orthodox side, from the President to the Department of Trade and Industry. In the Reform Coalition, we had different players, certain parts of, all of this and all of the mapping that I did was confirmed by the interview respondents that as I went through the research and developed this. All right, so the two coalitions. This is going to be probably the most interesting to you if you're involved in the energy, South African electricity lobbying space. You'll see the Orthodox Coalition. And I'd be very interested if anyone spots any strange fish that they think, what are they doing over there? The Reform Coalition from IDASA to local governments. Very interesting. And Hilton and I mostly worked on, at this time, we worked on electricity policy. So that's just to clarify the issue division. The 5 most contested issues that I found in my research, and this is after analysis based on the literature, what people had said about what they were supporting, and also what was reported in the media. 5 most contested issues: tariffs and investment affordability. These things are linked quite tightly together. Reform, climate change, nuclear power, and renewable energy. So I focused on those 5, only for the sake of some expediency and being able to finish a master's dissertation, because there was quite a lot that went down the list to number 17. I looked at each of those issues that were contested and broke them up into subsections on the sub-themes within those for each of the coalitions. So this is just one example of what I did with the tariffs. And you'll see a mix of sort of a synthesis of what people were arguing for and what they were, the assertions they were making. And these are, so if you look at coalitions framework theory, which is the theoretical framework I applied with this research, it's really based on what people